let's take a little jaunt up to the Orkney Islands, an archipelago off the north coast of Scotland. One of those islands is called Ronaldsay, and on Ronaldsay is a little fishing village called St. Margaret's Hope. Long ago, there were 3 strong, tall, handsome, strapping brothers. They were the best fishermen in the village. They had learned their craft from their father and his father before them. And while they were the best at bringing in huge catches of fish, what they were not good at catching was romance. They couldn't catch a lass or a true love to save them. One day they came in from the sea. It had been quite a rough day, and the sun went down and the moon came up. And because the moon was so full and bright, they just kept working. They had nets to mend and spindles to carve and ropes to coil. Deep into the night, when that moon was the highest, the older brother said, "Do you hear that? Sounds like singing." They stopped what they were doing and listened. And sure enough, not just singing, but women singing. "Lads, let's put our tools away and go see who's doing the singing." So they put their things away, and they felt like it was coming from the cove next to them. So they silently crept up the boulders and the stones on this side and peered down into the cove. And what should they see out on the sand but 3 beautiful women singing and swaying and dancing in that beautiful moonlight. Naked. "Oh," said the older brother, "lads, do you know what those are? They're Selkies. I've heard the old folk tell of them. They're seal people who come out of the sea on full moon nights, shed their skins, dance and sing and act as human, and then they put their seal skins on and go back to sea. But the old folks say if you take their skin, they have to come and live with you as your bride as long as you keep their seal skin. This is the answer to all of our problems. Let's go get those skins." So silently they crept down the cliff face and over the boulders and out onto the sand. And quickly they each snatched a sealskin. Instantly those young women knew they hadn't been paying attention, and they were caught now. And they turned to see the 3 brothers. The older brother held the sealskin out and said, "Which one of you belongs to this?" And one young woman stepped forward and bowed her head. Oh, you're so beautiful. You'll do just fine. Now I know as long as I have your sealskin, you have to come be my wife. So come along now." And up the trackway home to his cottage, the young woman shivering in the night air behind him. The younger brother, holding his sealskin, said, "Which one of you is this?" And one young woman stepped forward and bowed her head. Oh, you are so beautiful, more beautiful than I can imagine. Now, if it's true, I have your sealskin, and I need a wife, so come along now." And up the trackway home to his cottage he went, the young woman shivering in the night air behind. The younger brother, he was the most sensitive of the 3, and he just didn't feel like any of this felt quite kind at all. So he held the sealskin out to the young maiden, and he said to her, "You are very beautiful, and I'd be honored if you'd be my wife. I would love you and care for you, but this is yours. So if you want to take it and go back to the sea, here you go." Instead of taking it, she stepped towards him and bowed her head as if to accept his proposal. Maybe she just didn't want to go back to the sea without her sisters, but he was kind of shocked, but also excited. He realized she was cold. He took his coat off and put it around her to keep her warm, and held her hand and her sealskin and gently walked her up the trackway to his cottage. The older brother hid that sealskin where he thought that seal maiden could never find it. And he had nothing but domestic difficulties from day one. She refused to cook, she refused to clean, and she refused to be nice to him. And every night after he went to bed, she would search frantically everywhere, behind things, under things, over things, out in the garden, digging, looking for her sealskin. One night she must have found it, because she and the skin disappeared. The second brother had taken the sealskin and put it in a trunk, a wooden trunk, and locked it with a key, and put that trunk under his bed and hid the key. He also had domestic drama. She refused to cook, she refused to clean, and she refused to be a good wife. And every night after he went to bed, she started searching for that key. She pulled things off of shelves. She emptied out buckets and bags and cans. And, well, one day he came back from sea, and the trunk had been pulled out from under the bed, and she had taken an axe to it and chopped it apart, and she and the sealskin were gone. The younger brother, though, he had a different idea about that sealskin. He put it up in the rafters for safekeeping. And he said, "You can see that now, and it's yours, and any time you want to take it and go back home, you do so. I will understand." In the meantime, he doted on her. He took care of her. He made her little gifties, and he brought her trinkets that he would find in the sea. And she grew to love him as well. She tried to learn to cook. However, she always preferred her fish raw. And that was before sushi was trendy. She tried to cook his fish, but she always burned it. He ate it gratefully and never said a word, so he wouldn't make her feel bad. She tried to learn to clean, but there's just something about sweeping a dirt floor that a seal person just doesn't understand, so she never quite got the hang of it. Every night after he went to sleep, she would go and get her sealskin and take it down and hold it next to her heart so she could feel the waves in her veins and smell the salt air in the fur. But because she loved him so, every morning before he woke up, she would put it back so that he wouldn't feel bad. Well, not too long after this true love affair was happening, they had a little boy. A beautiful boy with big brown eyes and the softest silky hair and just a little webbing between his toes. She took him to sea every day and taught him to be a strong swimmer, how to avoid riptides and rogue waves and whirlpools. And she also taught him how to instinctively find the best catches of fish. Well, he grew and grew and grew into a fine young man. One night she took that sealskin down and held it as she always had done. And something was different. The moon was brighter. The pull of the tide and the sea and the waves was stronger than she ever remembered it. So she took the sealskin down to the cove, the very cove where she had emerged so many years ago, and looked longingly out at the waves. When she heard a voice behind her say, "Oh, Mother, Mother, please don't go. We love you so. Please stay with us." She turned to see her husband and her son. Their tears were glistening in the moonlight, and she said to them, "I love you more than you will ever know. You are truly my treasures. But you no longer need me. My work here is done. And I am oh so very homesick. But always remember this, no matter how much we miss each other, no matter how far apart we are, no matter how much pain or sadness we have in our lives, there's healing in salt water, tears, sweat, and the sea." And with that, she slipped the sealskin on over her body as if it had never been away from her, and she slid silently off into the silvery waves. Every full moon night after that, the fishermen went down to that very cove and stood on the sand and watched a single sealhead bobbing in the waves beyond. He became old and frail. He didn't go to sea anymore. The young man was a fine fisherman and did all of the providing they needed. One night, the young man was awakened in the middle of the night. It was a full moon night, a bigger moon than he remembered, brighter than he could ever remember. And there was something powerfully strong about the sound of the waves down below in the cove. And he thought, "I better go check on my father." So he went down and looked down at the cove, and what should he see? his old, frail, withered, ancient father lying on the sand, his arms clutching tightly an old, old seal. He knew they were gone. He went and fetched a linen sheet and went down to the beach, and he wrapped them ever so lovingly and tightly together. And he pushed them off into the waves in their embrace and their true love to the sea, just as they had been in true love on the land. He got married and he had 5 children, 4 adorable girls and 1 beautiful boy. The boy had the big round brown eyes and the soft silky hair and just a little webbing between his toes, just like his Selkie grandmother. And that father took his kids to the sea every single day and taught them to be strong swimmers, to avoid riptides and rogue waves and whirlpools, and how to instinctively find the best schools of fish. And every full moon night he took those children down to the cove and told them all about their Selkie grandmother. And he always told them the final words he heard her say. No matter how much pain or loss, heartbreak, drama, sadness in your life, there's healing in salt water, tears, sweat, and the sea.